Hello, everybody, and welcome to week number 10 of the 2017 NFL season and my predictions. But, of course, as always, we will start off this week with a recap of all the games last week and my predictions from last week. Wasn't a very good week for me. I went 5-8 in the predictions, but we'll get into that a little more later. First of all, let's just get into these games. We kicked off last week, as usual, on Thursday Night Football. It was the Buffalo Bills on the road against the New York Jets. The Bills were looking pretty good going into that game, but it was Thursday night, primetime game on the road. And I said it in last week's episode, when predicting the game, you're expecting the Bills to bill, and they billed. They lose this game 34-21. I picked them to win just because I didn't believe in the Jets, and I gave the Bills some props, even though I said that this game was really 50-50 to me. But it apparently shouldn't have been, because the Jets win easily. They win 34-21. They outgained the Bills 331-307. The Bills turn it over 3 times while the Jets do not. The Jets took a 10-7 lead into halftime. They end up being up 24-7 at the end of the third, and then at one point are up 34-7. And then the Bills tack on 2 garbage times touchdowns to make it 34-21. So really just domination by the New York Jets. Josh McCown goes 14 for 20, 140 yards and a touchdown. Tyrod Taylor goes 29 for 40, 285 yards, 2 touchdowns. The Bills have 63 yards rushing, and the Jets have 194 yards rushing. Matt Forte had 77 yards and 2 touchdowns on 14 carries, and Bilal Powell had 74 yards on 9 carries. Receiving-wise, nothing special for either team. It was Deontay Thompson of the Buffalo Bills leading the way for the game in both receptions with 7 and yards with 81. He also had a touchdown on top of that. So we opened up the week with an incorrect pick. That's all right. Most people got that one wrong. This next one, it was a pretty good split. 52% of the people went with the Falcons on the road against the Panthers, as did I. But they lose. They lose this game 20-17. Actually, a pretty even game in terms of the stat sheet, and the Falcons jumped out to a 10-0 lead at the end of the first quarter. The Panthers end up taking the lead into halftime 14-10. They add on to that to go up 20-10 after the third quarter. The Falcons get a touchdown with 3:25 to go to make it 20-17. And then the Panthers actually 3 and out, giving the Falcons the ball with a chance to tie the game or win it. But then they go 4 and out, 4 straight plays, nothing doing. They end up turning the ball over on downs, and the Panthers win. So a big win in the NFC South for the Panthers. They are now 6-3, and the Falcons 4-4, not good there. We'll see how that continues to progress. Pretty interesting between the Panthers and Saints this year. Matt Ryan goes 24 for 38, 313 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Cam Newton goes 13 for 24, 137 yards. So not a very good game through the air for Cam Newton. But on the ground, Newton had 86 yards rushing, which led the Panthers with a touchdown on 9 carries. Christian McCaffrey also had 66 yards rushing and a touchdown. Devontae Freeman led the way for the Falcons with 46 yards on 11 carries, but only 53 yards total for the Falcons. Julio Jones had 6 catches for 118 yards. Devin Funchess led the way for the Panthers with 86 yards on 5 catches. That brings us to the Bengals on the road against the Jaguars. I went with the Bengals just because the Jaguars had won and lost every other game. But I mentioned it last week. Did the fact that they had a bye week mess with that pattern? It might have. So they end up winning actually 2 in a row. And in dominating fashion, they outgained the Bengals 408 yards to 148. The time of possession was 40 minutes and 14 seconds to 19 minutes and 46 seconds. And the Bengals never turned the ball over. The Jaguars did once. The Jaguars had 26 first downs to the Bengals 8. Yet somehow this was only a 6-point game at halftime. The Jaguars led 13-7. They add on a field goal in the third and a touchdown early in the fourth to take the 23-7 lead, which they hang on to. Andy Dalton goes 10 for 18, 136 yards. Not good. Blake Bortles goes 24 for 38, 259 yards and a touchdown. The Bengals only have 29 yards rushing as a team. The Jaguars have 149, led by Chris Ivory's 70 on 20 carries. AJ Green gets 1 catch for 6 yards before being ejected for fighting. Somehow he's not suspended. I don't know. Either way, just an ugly game for the Bengals. They are not a good team. We got that pick wrong, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned I picked the Bengals. Pretty sure I did, because I mentioned the pattern of the Jaguars winning, losing, winning, losing. Anyway, so that brings us to the fourth game of last week, and the first game we got right. It was the Philadelphia Eagles at home against the Denver Broncos. Pretty easy pick as far as I was concerned in terms of A, the Eagles are better, B, the Eagles are at home, C, the time zone difference. And yeah, they end up winning 51-23, so an aspect of the game you don't expect the Broncos to get destroyed in on defense. They do. They give up 51 points. The Eagles gained 419 yards to the Broncos 226. Broncos actually had 12 extra seconds of time of possession. I don't know how that happened, but they turned the ball over twice. The Eagles turned it over once. Broncos actually struck first with a field goal to go up 3-0, but at the end of the first quarter, it was 17-3, and at halftime, it was 31-9. Eagles, they end up adding on to that to come to that 51-23 final. Brock Osweiler got the start in this one. He goes 19 for 38, 208 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, so not good at all. Carson Wentz goes 15 for 27, 199 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Only 35 yards rushing for the Broncos, 197 yards rushing for the Eagles, led by guess who, Jay Ajayi. He gets 77 yards and a touchdown on 8 carries. So the Eagles now are 8-1, and they look like they will certainly win the NFC East, barring a collapse, because I don't think the Cowboys will be able to make up much ground. Then the next game we got right, it was the Tennessee Titans at home against the Baltimore Ravens. Tennessee came into this game at 5-4. The Ravens came into this game at 4-4. And the Titans end up pulling out the victory 23-20. The Ravens actually outgained the Titans 341-257, which is surprising. Ravens have not been very good on offense this year. They had 24 first downs to the Titans 14. They turned it over twice, though. Titans turned it over once. This game was back and forth all day. It was 3-3 halfway through the first quarter, 10-3 at the end of the first quarter in favor of the Titans, 16-6 at the end of the half for the Titans. But the Ravens fight back to get to within 3 with 8 minutes to go in the game. Titans get another touchdown to go back up 2 scores, though, 23-13 with 4 minutes to go. Ravens get a touchdown with under a minute to go to make it 23-20. The onside kick fails, and the Titans hang on for the victory. Joe Flacco goes 34 for 52, 261 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Marcus Mariota goes 19 for 28, 218 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Not a lot on the ground for either team. Ravens 73 yards rushing, Titans 71. Jeremy Maclin leads the game in receiving for the Ravens, 8 catches, 98 yards. That takes us to the Texans at home against the Colts. I went with the Texans. Obviously, this was before I knew that Deshaun Watson went down. Although I probably would have picked the Texans anyway because the Colts aren't good. Texans are at home. Defense is pretty good, blah, blah, blah. But they end up losing 20-14. The Colts get 371 yards of offense, so I don't think that had anything to do with the quarterback of the Texans. Texans had 288 yards, 1 turnover for each team. Texans actually had 2 more first downs than the Colts as well. Colts went into halftime with a 10-7 lead. They end up scoring another touchdown in the third and adding on a field goal in the fourth to go up 20-7. Texans get to within 6 with a touchdown with 6 minutes to go. They get the ball back with a chance to take the lead, and they actually have a pretty good drive going. In fact, they're down at 4th and goal at the 7 with 2 seconds left. Touchdown probably wins the game, assuming they make the extra point. But Tom Savage is sacked on the play and he fumbles, and the Colts end up winning this game. Jacoby Brissett, 20 for 30, 2 touchdowns, 308 yards for the Colts. Tom Savage, 19 for 44, 219 yards, 1 touchdown. 19 for 44. Wow. 92 yards rushing for the Colts, 51 of those from Frank Gore. 94 yards rushing for the Texans, 57 of those from Lamar Miller. DeAndre Hopkins, 6 catches, 86 yards, and a touchdown for the Texans. T.Y. Hilton, 5 catches, 175 yards, and 2 touchdowns for the Colts. Big day for him. So we got that pick wrong, which brought us to the Los Angeles Rams on the road against New York. Boy, you want to talk about a team that gave up. Picked the Giants to win this game. I figured, yeah, they're 1-6, but, they're going to show some pride. They're at home. It's cold weather for a team that's experiencing some hot weather, or was, in Los Angeles. A West Coast team playing an East Coast team at 1 p.m. Eastern. That's always tough. Giants defense should still be pretty good, but they are not. Well, I think they are, but since they are 1-6, I don't think they care to try anymore. And I think that was evident in this game as the Rams win 51-17. Rams outgained the Giants 473-319. Giants turned the ball over 3 times, 2 on fumbles, 1 on interceptions. This game was actually 7-7 at the end of the first quarter. Then the Rams score 17 unanswered. Giants kick a field goal. Rams get that field goal right back at the end of the half to go up 27-10. 3 straight touchdowns in the third, make it 48-10. Somehow the Giants find a way to score a touchdown and make it 48-17. Rams kick a field goal near the end of the game to go up 51-17, which was the final. Jared Goff, 14 for 22, 311 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Great game for him. Eli Manning, 20 for 36, 220 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. 111 yards rushing for the Giants, led by Darkwa, 71 yards. 162 yards for the Rams, led by Todd Gurley's 59 and 2 touchdowns on 16 carries. That brings us to the Buccaneers on the road against the New Orleans Saints. I went with the Saints at home, and they get it done. They win 30-10. Not a whole lot to talk about in this game. Saints outgained the Bucs 407-200. They actually turned the ball over twice and lost the turnover battle 2-1, but they end up winning this game. It was 9-0 at the end of the half, 16-3 at the end of the first half. It was actually 9-0 Saints at the end of the first quarter, 16-3 Saints at the end of the half. 2 touchdowns in the third make it 30-3. Buccaneers get a late touchdown for the 30-10 final. Jameis Winston goes 7 for 13, 67 yards before being replaced by Ryan Fitzpatrick, who goes 8 for 15, 68 yards and a touchdown. 87 yards rushing for the Bucs, 151 yards rushing for the Saints. Mark Ingram, 77 yards and 16 carries led the way. Alvin Kamara had 68 yards and 10 carries. He had a rushing touchdown. Drew Brees, 22 for 27, 263 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Not a lot through the air for either team except Kamara. 6 catches, 84 yards, and a touchdown for the Saints. So big game for him out of the backfield. That brings us out west to the NFC West. It was the San Francisco 49ers at home against the Cardinals. I picked the Cardinals to win, although I said this could be a pretty good chance for the 49ers to finally get a win, but they do not. They lose 20-10. Cardinals outgain the 49ers 368-329. Each team turned it over twice. 49ers actually hung in this game for a while. It was 14-3 Cardinals at the end of the first half. But early in the third quarter, the 49ers get a touchdown to go down 14-10. Early in the fourth, the Cardinals kick a field goal to go up 17-10, so 1 touchdown game. And then with 5 minutes to go, Cardinals end up with another field goal for the 20-10 score, which was the final. Drew Stanton played this game for the Cardinals, and he goes 15 for 30, 201 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. C.J. Beathard for the 49ers, 24 for 51, 294 yards, 1 interception. 63 yards rushing for the Niners, 167 yards for the Cardinals, 37 carries, 159 yards for Adrian Peterson, but somehow he did not find his way in the end zone. Larry Fitzgerald had 5 catches for 70 yards. Carlos Hyde had 9 catches for 84 yards, which led the 49ers by far. So we got that pick right, which brings us to the Seattle Seahawks at home against the Washington Redskins. I, as well as 93% of people on ESPN.com, went with the Seattle Seahawks, and they did not get it done. They end up losing 17-14, despite outgaining the Redskins 437-244. Seattle turned the ball over twice. Washington turns it over once. This game was actually 7-2 Redskins at the end of the half. Redskins end up adding on a field goal in the third to make it 10-2. Seahawks get a pretty early touchdown in the fourth and fail on the 2-point conversion, and that made the game 10-8. They end up scoring another touchdown to take the lead 14-10 after yet another failed 2-point conversion. And then with 59 seconds left in the game, the Redskins cap off a 4-play, 70-yard, 35-second drive to take the 17-14 lead with a 1-yard touchdown, and they hang on for the win. Kirk Cousins, 21 for 31, 247 yards. Russell Wilson, 24 for 45, 297 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. 148 yards rushing for the Seahawks, led by Russell Wilson, 77 yards on 10 carries, only 51 yards rushing for the Redskins. And Doug Baldwin for the Seahawks had 7 catches, 108 yards, and a touchdown. So looking at the player box score and the team box score, you would think the Seahawks won this game, but somehow they found a way to lose this one. Redskins win. Redskins desperately needed that win. That gets them back to 500 on the year. Seahawks fall to 5-3. Then we had the Chiefs on the road against the Cowboys. I went with the Chiefs, as did most people on ESPN.com, and they lose 28-17. Cowboys outgained the Chiefs 375-323. This was a 14-10 Cowboy lead at the half. Chiefs take the lead with 9 minutes to go in the third, 17-14. Cowboys get it right back a few minutes later. They are up 21-17 going into the fourth, and they get another touchdown on a very impressive drive that gave them 28-17 lead, which they hang on to. Alex Smith goes 25 for 34, 263 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Dak Prescott 21 for 33, 249 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. 68 yards rushing for the Chiefs, 131 for the Cowboys, led of course by Ezekiel Elliott's 93 yards and a touchdown on 27 carries. Terrence Williams for the Cowboys, 9 catches, 141 yards. Travis Kelce led the way for the Chiefs through the air, 7 catches, 73 yards, 1 touchdown. That brought us to the Sunday Night Football game, which was the Oakland Raiders on the road against the Miami Dolphins. Ugly game on paper coming into it. Pretty good game, actually, in reality. I mean, between two okay teams. The Dolphins outgained the Raiders 395-379. Raiders turn it over twice, Dolphins once. But the Raiders end up pulling it out on the road, 27-24. It was 13-9 Raiders at the end of the half. 20-16 Raiders at the end of the third. Raiders get a touchdown in the fourth with 4 minutes to go up 27-16, which kind of put it away, but the Dolphins do get a touchdown with 1:32 to go down 27-24. They are unable to get the ball back on the onside kick, and the Raiders win this game. Derek Carr, 21 for 30, 300 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Jay Cutler, 34 for 42, 311 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, so actually a pretty good game for him. 84 yards rushing for the Raiders, 57 yards and 2 touchdowns on 14 carries for Marshawn Lynch. 86 yards rushing for the Dolphins, led by Kenyon Drake, 69 yards on 9 carries. Jared Cook, the tight end for the Raiders, 8 catches, 126 yards, led the way for both teams in receiving. We got this pick right, which brings us to the final game from last week, which we got wrong. It was the Detroit Lions on the road against the Green Bay Packers. I've mentioned it throughout this series. I'm a Lions fan, and that's basically the only reason I picked against them, because with how they performed the last month on the road, Monday Night Football, Green Bay coming off a bye. I don't care who the quarterback was. The Lions have won in Green Bay one time in my entire life. I'm 24, going on 25 years old. So I had little to no faith that the Lions pull this one out, but they do. They actually win pretty impressively, 30-17. It was their first double-digit win in Green Bay since like 1980 something. And the Lions never punted. It was the first time they didn't do that since 1971, believe it or not. So anyway, just a quick look at the team stats. Lions outgained the Packers 417 yards to 311. Detroit had the lone turnover in this game, and they dominate time of possession 36-55 to 23-05. Lions took a 14-0 lead. Packers get a field goal as time expires at the half. Lions tack on 2 field goals to go up 20-3. Brett Hundley leads a 7-play, 78-yard drive in 2 minutes and 39 seconds with just under 10 minutes to go to bring this game to 20-10. And at that point, me and probably most Lions fans were thinking, here we go. How do we lose this one? But instead, the Lions march down the field in only 4 plays to score again to go up 27-10. They end up getting the ball back later in the game and try to run up the score, which I was rooting for because I've seen the Packers blow us out way too many times to count. But in typical Lions fashion, they have 1st and goal from the 4, try to pound one more in, and they end up losing like 8 yards and having to settle for a field goal, which put them up 30-10. Packers go down the field in garbage time, get a flag on the final play of the game in the end zone. It really wasn't that egregious. The ref must have had the over on the over-under because he throws a flag. Packers get a free play from the 1 with no time left, and they score a touchdown. That brought you to 30-17 final. Stafford with his best game of the year so far, goes 26 for 33, 361 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Brett Hundley, 26 for 38, 245 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. He was okay for being Brett Hundley. 78 yards rushing for the Packers, 64 yards rushing for the Lions, no surprise there. Big day through the air for 2 Lions receivers. Golden Tate, 7 catches, 113 yards, but Marvin Jones, 7 catches, 107 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Not a lot through the air for the Packers. Lions get the win. That puts them at 4-4 and sets them up. They have a very easy stretch to end the season. I think they should be favored, quite frankly, in every game they play from here on out, barring a collapse, which would not surprise me at all. This team could finish 6-10, and it would not shock me. So again, after last week, we are now with a season total of 82-50, 5-8 last week, not good, but 82-50 overall for the year. Not too bad. We will certainly try and build on it this week, and it starts on Thursday night. The Seattle Seahawks on the road against the Arizona Cardinals. Seahawks 5-3, Cardinals 4-4. So the NFC West still up for grabs, trying to chase down those Los Angeles Rams, believe it or not. Seahawks, very inconsistent. So are the Cardinals. I think the Seahawks are a better team than the Cardinals, but this game's tricky for me. It's obviously a divisional rivalry game. Seahawks are on the road, prime time. I'm going to go with the big underdog. That's right, I'm going with the Cardinals at home to beat the Seahawks. And I am one of maybe like 10% of ESPN.com going with that pick. Speaking of underdogs, this is the New Orleans Saints, 6-2, on the road against the 5-3 Buffalo Bills. Bills coming off of that disgusting loss on the road against the Jets, but they're at home. The Saints are typically not a very good team on the road. Outdoors, Saints aren't typically a good team. In the cold, and the Bills had an extra 3 days to prepare since they last played on last Thursday. And the Bills have something to play for. I think they will be ready to go. I think they will show up, and I think that the Bills will beat the Saints at home. Then in the NFC North, we got the 4-4 Packers on the road against the 3-5 Bears. I think that the Packers' defense is not very good, and without Aaron Rodgers, they have zero chance to score many points on offense to make up for it. So even though I don't think the Bears are very good, they're at home against a very depleted Packer team. Give me the Bears over the Packers. Then we got the Titans at home against the Cincinnati Bengals. Titans 5-3, Bengals 3-5. Bengals just got worked on the road against the Jaguars. Why shouldn't I expect them to get worked against the Titans? Titans aren't very good in my opinion, but guess what? Bengals are even worse. Titans win at home over the Bengals. Then we have the 0-8 Cleveland Browns on the road against the 4-4 Detroit Lions. 99% of people on ESPN.com look like they're rolling with the Lions. I am as well. But as a Lions fan, do not be surprised if you see the Browns win this fucking ball game, and I will probably throw my head through my wall. Just letting you know. Fair warning. Let's see. Hold on. Actually, I'm going to take a look. What does ESPN predictor say that this game? ESPN.com's matchup predictor gives the Lions a 78% chance to win, which means it gives the Browns a 22% chance to win. Okay, as a Lions fan, I'm telling you right now, the Browns have a 40% chance to win this fucking game. So, maybe keep your eye on it. This has typical Lions shit themselves all over it, but they'll win. Because if they're going to shit themselves, which they most likely will, it'll probably be down the stretch when it looks like, oh, they're really about to do it. They won't do it this early. Watch. Then we have the 6-2 Steelers on the road against the Indianapolis Colts, who are 3-6, coming off of a win on the road against the Texans. But the Colts suck. Give me the Steelers on the road to beat them. Then we have the Minnesota Vikings at 6-2 against the 4-4 Washington Redskins in Washington. Vikings in control of the NFC North with a 2-game lead, although they still have to play the Lions, and they already have a head-to-head loss. So if the Lions beat them on Thanksgiving, suddenly they're only 1 game ahead of the Lions, assuming both teams keep winning up to that point, which probably won't happen. So the Vikings are very much not out of it. Vikings actually have a pretty tough end to the season, where the Lions have a pretty easy end to the season. So that Thanksgiving game, getting a little ahead of ourselves, will be probably huge. Anyway, Vikings activated Teddy Bridgewater. I don't think he will be ready to play this week. But even if he is ready, I mean, will he really be When's the last time the guy played? He's got to be rusty. He won't be that efficient, I can't believe. And they're on the road against a Redskins team that still has a lot to play for in their division. So I like the Redskins at home to beat the Minnesota Vikings. Then we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers hosting the New York Jets. I will continue the tradition of this season of not picking the New York Jets just because I don't think they're a good team. I don't care what their record is. Give me the Buccaneers at 2-6 to finally win a game again at home against the Jets. I'm rolling with the Buccaneers to win their first game since, September? Come on, Bucks. Then we have the Los Angeles Chargers at 3-5 on the road against the 5-3 Jacksonville Jaguars. Most people rolling with the Jaguars, and it makes sense. Chargers not very good on the road. Jaguars have been up and down, but they've looked good a lot. More often than not. That's why they've won more games than they've lost. And it's a West Coast team on the road at 1 p.m. You know how much I don't like that, but I'm not breaking away from my trend of the Jaguars. They win, lose, win, lose, win, lose. Now, I picked them to lose last week, but apparently, because they had their bye, they just win or lose every other week, not every other game. So I'm picking them to lose this one. And if they win this one, then the trend may be broken, and I'll just pick accordingly. But until then, I'll go with what works. Jaguars lose this game at home against the Chargers. Then we have the Houston Texans on the road against the Los Angeles Rams. Texans are going to lose easily. Rams win this ball game at home, probably. I don't know. Wouldn't surprise me if they don't. But they will. Rams beat the Texans. Then we have the Cowboys on the road against the Atlanta Falcons. Cowboys 5-3, Falcons 4-4. Falcons not yet quite returning to form from last year's season. They are at home against the team that I think is pretty even with them at best. And will Ezekiel Elliott finally not play? Okay, I don't know if we still don't know if Ezekiel Elliott gets to play or not. Who cares? Falcons win at home over the Cowboys. Then we have the 1-7 New York Giants on the road against the 0-9 San Francisco 49ers. Most people on ESPN.com, looking like 60-40, are going with the New York Giants. The Giants at home last week quit. So I don't have much faith in them going on the road to beat a team who's thinking, hey, this is it. This is where we get our win. Give me the 49ers at home to beat the New York Giants and get their first win on the season. Then we have the New England Patriots on the road and Sunday Night Football against the Denver Broncos. I love home primetime teams to win, but I can't love the Broncos to win after what they've been doing the last couple of weeks, especially against a quarterback like Tom Brady. So give me the Patriots to go on the road and beat the Broncos. Then we close out this week with the Miami Dolphins on the road against the Carolina Panthers on Monday Night Football. Panthers 6-3, Dolphins 4-4. Panthers win this game easily, 28-13 Panthers. Thank you everybody for watching. And as always, please comment below with any of your thoughts on my predictions for this week or any of your predictions for this week coming up in the NFL season. And as always, please subscribe for next week's episode where we break down all of these games in these predictions and, of course, predict all the games next week. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and goodbye.